All right. So are you ready to dive into some politics today?
Always up for a good political deep dive.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to be talking about Kamala Harris and her run for president.
Sounds good.
And our main source for this is going to be this exclusive interview she did recently.
Okay.
And yeah, she really opens up, about her vision for the country
Yeah.
and her plans for if she, gets elected.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just interesting because it's not all, just typical campaign talking points.
Yeah.
You get a sense of her as a leader, how she approaches these kind of tough questions.
It is interesting how in this interview, she kind of goes beyond just those usual campaign promises.
Yeah.
And you really kind of get to see a little bit of her personality, her confidence, her direct way of answering the questions.
Yeah, and they don't waste any time. Right out of the gate, they jump right into, the big thing that everyone's talking about, the economy, the cost of living.
Yeah, and it's something that really is affecting everyone right now. It's been on everyone's minds.
Yeah, everyone's feeling the squeeze right now,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to, groceries.
Yeah, the grocery bills are insane.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Housing costs.
Yeah.
It's tough out there.
And it's interesting because even though, we've seen some experts are giving her economic plan a thumbs up,
Right.
the polls are showing that voters aren't totally convinced.
Yeah.
It's like a disconnect there.
It is, and I think that's kind of one of the big takeaways from this whole interview,
Yeah.
is that there's this disconnect between maybe what the experts are saying and how voters are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And, Harris acknowledges that right away.
Yeah.
She's not shying away from it.
Right.
She says, it's tough out there. I see you.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you're going through.
And it's not just acknowledging it, though.
No.
She's focusing on tangible solutions, right?
Right. She's not just saying, oh, I feel your pain. She's saying, here's what I'm going to do about it. So she's talking about tackling price gouging, which I think a lot of people can get behind that.
Oh, for sure.
Who likes being price gouged?
Nobody.
And then she also is, bringing up the idea of boosting home construction to try to make housing more affordable, help first-time buyers with down payments,
Right.
expand the child tax credit,
Yeah.
to kind of give families a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
So it's all about concrete action.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a really important point because a lot of times in politics, you get a lot of talk,
Yeah.
a lot of promises, but not a lot of specifics.
Mm-hmm.
And she seems to be focusing on specifics here.
Yeah, and she even name dropped some economists.
Oh, yeah.
Some big names who are saying, her plan would actually strengthen the economy.
Right.
And then she contrasts that with Trump's plan. And she says that, according to these economists, Trump's plan could actually weaken the economy.
Right. And it makes you wonder, why isn't that message resonating more with voters?
Yeah, why is there that disconnect?
I think it really highlights how much perception matters in politics.
Yeah.
Sometimes the facts on the ground don't necessarily line up with how people are feeling.
Totally.
Or what they're being told.
Right.
It could be anxiety about the economy, distrust of, government solutions in general, or maybe the opposition is doing a really good job of spinning things.
Yeah, framing things a certain way.
Exactly.
And then, of course, there's always just, straight up misinformation going around, too.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, so much to unpack there.
Definitely.
And let's move on to something else that I thought was really interesting from this interview.
Yeah.
Back in 2019, Harris made that comment about the elephant in the room.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
About whether America was really ready for a woman.
Especially a woman of color as president.
Yeah, and back then, she seemed a little unsure.
Yeah, she did. She seemed a little hesitant.
Not totally confident in her answer. But now fast forward to today, and she is completely confident.
Oh, yeah. She's like, absolutely, the country's ready.
No hesitation at all.
Yeah, it's a complete 180 from where she was back in 2019.
Yeah, and she really emphasizes unity.
Yeah.
Being a president for all Americans.
Right, and it's a powerful message for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it does make you wonder, has the political landscape really changed that much?
Yeah.
In just a few years?
Has it shifted enough to actually make that a reality?
Support a woman.
Yeah, a woman of color in the White House.
The big question.
And speaking of big questions, they also dove into, the really hot button issue of reproductive rights.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Especially in a post-Dobbs world.
Absolutely.
And for those of you who maybe haven't been following this super closely,
Right.
Dobbs refers to that Supreme Court case that overturned Roe v. Wade.
Yeah. That was a huge turning point.
Yeah, a lot of changes have happened since then.
Big time.
And Harris takes a very strong stance on this issue.
Oh, yeah, she does.
She calls it a matter of life and death.
Mm-hmm.
And she says it's not something to be negotiated.
Right. It's not a bargaining chip.
And what's really significant is that she refuses to compromise on this.
Yeah.
Even with the very real possibility that, Congress could be controlled by Republicans.
Which could very well happen.
Right.
So that's a really interesting dynamic. Because on the one hand, you have her principled stand, she's not budging on this.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have the political reality.
Yeah.
Which could make it very difficult to actually, get anything done.
To implement her vision.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then just to make things even more complex.
Oh, yeah.
She talks about this alliance that she has with Liz Cheney.
Interesting.
Now, Liz Cheney is a Republican.
Yeah.
She's pro-life.
Right.
But she spoke out against overturning Roe.
Yes, she did.
And so you have this kind of unexpected partnership.
Right. It's not something you see every day.
Right. And I think it really shows how complex this issue is. And how maybe there is room for common ground in some unexpected places.
Maybe.
It makes you wonder.
It does, because, in this current political climate, can this kind of cross-party collaboration actually work?
Is it even possible?
Or is it just wishful thinking?
Is it naive to think that we could actually, come together?
Find some middle ground.
Yeah. And then the interviewer also doesn't shy away from personal beliefs.
Okay.
They ask Harris directly about her stance on gender-affirming care.
Another hot button issue.
Yeah, and this is one where her opponents have been trying to, paint her in a certain light.
Yeah, they've been trying to define her on this issue. So it was a good, smart move for the interviewer to go there.
To get her on the record.
Yeah.
And her answer focuses on respecting the law.
Okay.
And letting doctors make medical decisions. So she's not really getting into the moral or the ethical argument.
She's keeping more legalistic.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe a deliberate choice.
Yeah, it could be.
Because it allows her to avoid getting bogged down in, those kind of divisive debates. But it is interesting because she doesn't come right out and express strong personal support for the trans community.
Yeah, that is notable.
Which is a little different from some of her past messaging.
Right. She's used language before, like seeing and loving the trans community.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit of a shift.
Yeah, a little more muted.
Yeah, a little more subtle.
And so it makes you wonder, is this a calculated move?
Yeah.
To avoid a controversial topic, appeal to a broader range of voters?
Or has her position actually shifted?
Has she genuinely changed her stance on this issue?
That's the big question.
And I think it's something that voters who care about, LGBTQ plus rights, they're going to be paying attention to this.
Absolutely.
They're going to be looking for those clues.
For sure.
And then, of course, we can't talk about elections without talking about election night.
Right.
And the possibility, that we could see a repeat of what happened last time.
With the premature victory declarations.
Like Trump.
Yeah, it was chaos.
Yeah. And so the interviewer, brings this up.
Okay.
Asks Harris about it.
Makes sense.
And her response is pretty brief.
Okay.
But she is confident.
How does she respond?
She says, "My team is ready to go."
Okay.
Which suggests that, she's got plans in place for different scenarios.
Which is smart.
Yeah. I mean, after what happened on January 6th and, Trump's attempts to overturn the election results,
right.
I think it's understandable that she's being very proactive about this.
Absolutely.
And it really raises the stakes.
Yeah, it does.
It's not just about winning anymore.
Right.
It's about protecting democracy itself.
That's a big one.
And it makes you wonder, how might a contested election play out this time around?
Especially given everything that happened last time.
What safeguards are in place?
What lessons have been learned?
Big questions.
Huge questions.
But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about immigration.
Right.
Now, Harris has said in the past that ICE, the agency that handles immigration enforcement, that it needs a serious overhaul.
Okay.
She's even hinted at, starting from scratch.
Wow.
But in this interview, she's focused more on fixing the current system.
Okay, so a little bit of a shift there.
Yeah, maybe a little more pragmatic.
Could be.
And she lays out this 4-part plan.
Okay.
More border agents.
Okay.
Stopping the flow of fentanyl, going after these transnational criminal organizations.
Which are basically those big criminal networks that are involved in, like, smuggling and trafficking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she also talks about, supporting a bipartisan bill that Trump actually blocked.
Interesting.
So that last part really stood out to me because it plays into this theme that runs through the whole interview, which is Trump as an obstacle to progress, even on issues where both parties agree.
Right. So she's trying to paint him as the roadblock.
Yeah, and it's a powerful message.
It is.
But does it resonate with voters?
That's the question.
Like, will it actually sway anyone?
I think it depends on the voter. Some voters might be really persuaded by that argument.
Right.
They might say, yeah, even when there's common ground, Trump just gets in the way.
Right.
But other voters might see it as just partisan politics.
Yeah, just typical campaign rhetoric.
Exactly.
Okay, so now for the big elephant in the room.
Or maybe the elephant not in the room.
Yeah.
Biden's age.
Yeah. And whether he's mentally sharp enough
to be president?
Yeah, to handle the job.
Right.
And the interviewer doesn't bring this up directly.
Okay.
But it's definitely implied.
Because Biden's not running again.
Exactly.
So it's kind of the unspoken question hanging over everything. Like, is that why Harris is in this position now?
Right.
Is it because Biden just couldn't handle another term?
Yeah.
So they do talk about Biden's debate performance. Back in June.
Right, which Harris defended at the time.
Yeah, she did.
But now she just calls it a bad debate.
Okay.
And brushes off any deeper concerns.
So she's basically saying it was just a one-off.
Yeah, like nothing to see here.
But does that really address the underlying worries?
Yeah, like is that explanation enough for voters?
Especially those voters who are already concerned about Biden's age and his fitness for office.
Yeah, is she just trying to deflect?
Or does she genuinely believe that there's nothing to worry about?
Tough to say.
It is.
I guess we'll have to see how voters react.
Exactly.
Okay, so wrapping up this part of our deep dive.
Okay.
Harris frames this whole election as a clear choice.
Okay.
Her vision versus Trump's approach.
Right. Break it down for me.
Okay, so on the one hand, you have Harris, who's all about, a new generation of leadership, unity, finding solutions.
Right.
And then on the other hand, you have Trump, who she paints as being all about...
What? Constant complaining.
Grievance.
Division?
Division and no real agenda.
Okay, so it's a pretty stark contrast.
Yeah, she's really drawing a line in the sand.
And I think that's a really effective way to simplify a complex race.
Yeah.
Boil it down to its essence.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to voters who are just tired of the status quo.
Yeah, and they're tired of the fighting.
They want something new.
They want a leader who can bring people together.
It's sad.
But it does make you wonder, is it too simplistic?
Yeah, is there more to it than that?
Are there nuances that she's maybe glossing over?
Because it's a complicated world out there.
It is.
And there's rarely a simple solution.
Right.
So it's important for voters to really dig deep, look beyond those talking points, and really examine, the specifics of each candidate's platform,
their track record,
their vision for the country.
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to do in the next part of our deep dive.
Can't wait. Picking up where we left off, it's worth pointing out that this whole idea of framing the election as a choice between generations, it's a pretty powerful rhetorical tool.
For sure.
It taps into that desire that a lot of people have for something new, fresh perspectives, a break from the past.
Totally. And I think it's a message that could really resonate with younger voters.
Yeah.
Who are looking for leaders who understand their concerns.
Yeah.
Who get their priorities.
Absolutely.
Ah.
But there's a potential downside, too. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because by emphasizing generational differences, she could unintentionally alienate older voters who might feel like their experience and their perspectives are being dismissed.
It's a tough balancing act.
It is.
She needs to appeal to a wide range of voters, but also stay true to this message of change and generational shift.
Exactly. It's a delicate dance.
It is.
All right, so let's kind of shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And look at some of the challenges and opportunities facing Harris's campaign.
Yeah, let's break it down.
Okay, so this interview highlighted a few key takeaways for me. First, there's that disconnect we talked about between the positive economic analysis of her plans and how voters are actually perceiving them.
Yeah, bridging that gap is huge.
It's crucial.
Like, she needs to find a way to better communicate that economic message.
Yeah.
Maybe by focusing more on personal stories, relatable examples.
Yeah.
of how her policies would actually directly benefit working families.
Right, putting a human face on those policies.
Exactly.
Because right now it's kind of abstract. It's numbers, it's data.
It's wonky.
It's wonky, exactly.
Okay, so what's another challenge?
Well, another challenge is navigating those complex social issues.
Oh, yeah, those are tricky.
So her stance on reproductive rights, while principled, could be tough to actually implement.
Especially if Congress is divided.
Yeah, if you've got a Republican-controlled House or Senate.
Right. Gridlock.
Gridlock, exactly. And then her response on gender-affirming care,
Yeah.
while emphasizing respect and dignity, lacked that explicit support that some in the LGBTQ+ community might be looking for.
Yeah, and I think on these issues, clear and direct messaging is so important.
It is.
Voters want to know where she stands.
Yeah.
Especially on these issues that are, very personal and values-driven.
Absolutely. And it's not just about stating a position.
Right.
It's about showing that you understand the lived experiences of the people who are affected by these issues.
Okay, so another potential hurdle.
Yeah.
That question about Biden's fitness for office.
Oh, yeah. It's not going away.
It's lingering out there.
It is.
And even though Harris defends his capabilities, the fact that it's still being talked about is a problem for her.
It's a challenge, for sure.
And she needs to convince voters that she can lead on her own.
Yeah.
Regardless of any concerns about her running mate.
It's a tricky situation.
It is.
Because she needs to show loyalty to Biden, respect for him, but also assert her own leadership qualities, her own vision.
And let's not forget about Trump.
Oh, yeah. He's the big wild card.
The possibility of him returning to the White House.
That's a huge factor.
And Harris's campaign needs to be ready for a rematch.
That could be even more intense than last time.
Oh, absolutely.
So this means having a plan to counter misinformation, fight voter suppression efforts, and ensure a fair and secure election.
Yeah. Those are all crucial.
They are. And it also means being prepared to address the concerns of those voters who might be drawn to Trump's message.
Right. The voters who feel like the system has failed them.
Yeah, the ones who are looking for change, even if it comes from someone they don't fully trust.
So how do you do that?
Well, you have to address those economic anxieties.
Yeah.
You have to try to restore a sense of unity.
Right.
And offer a hopeful vision for the future.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the opportunities.
Okay, yeah. There are some bright spots here.
Yeah.
So one big opportunity for Harris is her emphasis on unity.
Okay.
On being a president for all Americans.
Yeah, that's a powerful message.
It is, especially in a country that's become so divided.
It could resonate across party lines.
Yeah.
Appeal to those voters who are just tired of the fighting.
Exactly. The ones who are looking for a leader who can bring people together.
Okay, what else?
Well, her focus on concrete solutions, especially when it comes to the economy, that presents a real opportunity.
Okay.
Because by outlining those specific plans, those actions, she can draw contrast between her approach and what she sees as Trump's lack of a real agenda.
Right. Like she's got a plan, he doesn't.
Exactly. And she's not afraid to call him out on it.
And then there's her willingness to call out Trump's rhetoric.
Yeah, even on issues where there's bipartisan support.
Well, like that immigration bill.
Exactly. And that could appeal to those voters who are just disillusioned with his leadership style.
Yeah, who are just tired of the drama. But of course, whether these opportunities actually translate into success depends on a lot of things.
It does.
How effective her campaign strategy is.
Yeah.
The political climate leading up to the election. And maybe most importantly, her ability to connect with voters.
Ah, yes. That's the key.
On a personal level.
Because at the end of the day, elections are often decided.
Yeah.
Not just on policy positions.
Right.
But on those intangible qualities.
Okay.
Like perceived character and trustworthiness.
Right. Do voters trust her?
Yeah. Do they like her?
Do they believe in her?
Do they think she's authentic?
Exactly.
Do they see empathy in her?
Yeah.
Do they believe that she genuinely cares about the needs of the people?
Because those things matter.
They do.
Okay, so this interview gave us a really good look at Harris's approach to leadership.
Yeah.
Her vision for the country and some of those challenges and opportunities that she faces in her bid for the presidency.
It was a valuable deep dive.
It was.
But it also raised a number of questions.
Oh, for sure.
That we need to keep thinking about
yeah.
as the campaign unfolds.
Like, what are the biggest obstacles that she's going to have to overcome?
What strategies might be most effective
yeah.
in reaching those undecided voters?
Right, because those are the ones who are going to decide the election.
And perhaps most importantly, what kind of leader would she be if elected?
That's the big question.
It is, and ultimately it's a question that each voter is going to have to answer for themselves.
Absolutely.
As they weigh their options and make their decision.
This has been fascinating, hasn't it?
Yeah, a real deep dive.
Yeah, we've really got to see like behind the curtain a bit, you know, with Harris's campaign.
I think so. We've seen her policies, her strategies, the roadblocks she faces.
Yeah, and we've touched on like the big picture stuff too, you know, leadership trust, where the country's headed.
Exactly, all the important things.
Okay, so as we wrap up here, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so think about everything we've talked about today, you know, her economic plans, her stance on, you know, things like reproductive rights and gender-affirming care, the possibility of Trump returning the need to win over undecided voters.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. So what do you think is going to be the biggest factor in this election?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like there's so many pieces to this puzzle.
It is a political puzzle.
The economy always plays a big role, and then these social issues that are so personal for people.
Right.
And, of course, the Trump factor, you know.
Yeah, you can't ignore that.
You can't. It's all connected, and it makes predicting the outcome nearly impossible.
Exactly, and that's what makes these deep dives so valuable. It's not about giving you the answer.
Right.
It's about giving you the tools to form your own conclusions.
I like that.
So keep thinking critically, you know, as this campaign unfolds. Pay attention to what they're saying, but also what they're doing.
Their actions.
Yeah. Look at their track records, what they actually believe in, and ask yourself, does this person connect with me as a voter?
That's a good point, because it's easy to get lost in all the noise.
Oh, it is.
All the slogans, the rallies, the constant news cycle.
Yeah, you can get overwhelmed.
But at the end of the day, it comes down to making a choice.
It does.
And that choice should be informed.
Absolutely.
Not just based on emotion or who you voted for last time, but on a real understanding of the issues.
And the candidates.
Exactly.
So we've given you the tools.
We have.
But the real work starts now.
It does.
Stay engaged, stay informed, and cast your vote based on what you believe is best for the country.
That's what it's all about.
And hey, if you ever feel lost,
yeah,
remember, we're here to help you navigate this crazy political world.
Always here to help.
Until next time, happy exploring.